Hello.
Hello. Hang on. Hi. Morning. Hello. Hello.
Howdy.
Howdy.
Gold! It's Friday from a converted bedroom somewhere in the south of England, only slightly edited and not at all live. They're the cream in your coffee, the double six to your snake eyes, the 22 to your 21, the Bernard Cribbins of board games, the titans of the tabletop. They've settled Catan, the sultans of snakes and ladders, the ayatollahs of Agricola, the betrayers at House on the Hill, the kings of Tokyo, the lords of Waterdeep. They are men at work, they put the bang in bang, the champions of the wild, the employers of fun. They always have a ticket to ride. They just put 9 goals past Southampton. Your favourite podcast. It's the Everybody Dies podcast. Hello, I'm Steve.
Howdy. I'm Ian.
And today on the podcast, we are eventually going to be talking about, I have already forgotten, and to put it up on here, what makes for a good emotionally driven game. But that will come a bit later.
Yeah.
So, to kick things off, what have we been playing?
What have I been playing?
I don't know whether you have. I think the last thing you might have played was the Megacity Oceania game that we talked about on the last podcast.
Oh.
I believe that was probably...
I've had a very busy 2 weeks.
You have, yes.
New shop has opened and I'm partially in charge of it, so I've been very busy. I honestly don't remember anything anymore.
To be honest, I haven't played a great deal myself either, but we can take a chance to talk about Megacity Oceania a bit more, because I did play another game of that pretty much immediately after the last podcast. It's a game where you're building cities and you're trying to build them in a certain way, so they have to be a certain height. Sometimes they have certain specifications that need to be met.
Materials you can't build out of, or they have to have like a garden in them or something like that.
Yeah,
it's quite cool. And
that's not the end of it. After you've built it, you've then got the what's the word I'm looking for?
Contracts.
Yep, you have the contracts, and you kind of have to slide your city, your building that you've built, into the centre. And it's not always a case of you putting it in the closest place to you. Well, you can do it that way if you're particularly nervous about it falling down before it gets there, because if you try to do it and it falls down, you've wasted your turn and you've got to use your next turn again to build it up. But one of the things I really like about it is the fact that you can build your buildings when it's not your turn. So it kind of always feels like you've got something to do.
In between doing stuff, if you've got a person like Daryl who sits there and goes, and tries and, formats his brain for 20 minutes, you can be doing something. So you can just be building your little structure on your little tile and maybe moving it around so it's more stable or taller, because you get extra points for it being tall. You
also get extra points at the end of the game if it's next to a park, if it's next to a couple of parks. So this is why you may not want to just slide it into the nearest open space in the city, because I think from the central park tile that's laid in the centre of the board, it can only go 3 tiles away from it.
Yeah.
So sometimes you may be forced to move it round to one side if you've already built 3 out in the shortest possible distance. But it's a neat little addition to it that just kind of makes you think about more about where you're going to place it, as well as just how you're going to build. Like I said, we talked about this on the last podcast, so we're probably repeating quite a lot of this, but...
Yeah. I mean, it's one of my favourite games that we played recently.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to talk about it a bit more because I enjoyed it so much. There's very few games we've been playing recently that I've gone, this is so good that I would be willing to play it again and again and again and again. So yeah.
But it's one of them.
Yeah, it is one of them.
Cool.
There's other games we've been playing recently where I've sort of gone, yeah, this is fun, and I'll play it again if we're playing it, but it's not so good that I want to spend more time on it, whereas Megacities is one of those where I would actively look at playing it more and more.
Yeah. I will say one game that I did finally get around to playing is Star Wars Outer Rim.
Oh, did you?
We did manage to get a game in of that the other day. It was just me and Andy, so we just played a 2-player game of it. Very much story-driven game, so if you're into games like Tales of the Arabian Nights or something like Arkham Horror, it's very similar to those. It's not a game where it feels like you're desperately trying to win the game. You're trying to make a really neat little story for your character. So, for example, if you're going to pick the Boba Fett character, it seems like you're probably going to take as many bounty missions as possible.
That is exactly what I would do.
Yeah, it's neat. You've kind of got the option with the bounties as well to either do lots of bounties really quickly by killing them, or getting taking them in alive and delivering them somewhere. It kind of feels like a delivery game more than anything else that's out there.
I assume the smugglers do a lot of delivering as well.
Yes, so you've basically got 3 things you can do in the game. You can complete bounties, you can make deliveries of cargo, whether it be legal or illegal goods, or you can just try and get somewhere just through story missions, basically. Okay. Sometimes you pick up a story mission based on contacts that you find around the board, or sometimes it's just based on at the end of every single term you have an encounter of some sort, whether it's an encounter based on the place, whether it's on a contact, or if you've been caught by one of the patrols that you've currently got negative influence with. So there's various ways around it. You're also you have your ship and you're upgrading it. You can get crew for your ship, but it's all still very much story driven because everything in the game is basically generated by the roll of a dice. There's not a lot you can really do in the game to counteract the roll of the dice. So in other words, there's no like mitigation or anything like that. It's just a case of you're rolling on a random event.
That's what happens.
Yeah, and that's what happens, which suits a story game, if I'm perfectly honest. And it was really enjoyable with 2 players. I would be interested to see how it plays with more, if I'm honest, because I know one of the big criticisms of the game was there was a lot of cases of analysis paralysis. It felt like a long time before it came round to your turn again. I haven't had that yet, simply because we played it as a 2-player game. I don't know whether it would be more prevalent.
Maybe unfair of me to say, but it looked like that sort of game when we were looking at it at UK Games Expo, didn't it? Where there was 4 people around a table and 3 of them were going, just waiting, arms crossed. Yeah. Hoping that sometime soon fun would come their way.
Yeah, it's actually another of the games that we never got to try at the UK Game Expo as well. And I think it was because you noticed that a lot of people were sat down playing the game and they were on it for a long time, and this was obviously why. It's because when you've got a full table of 4 people playing it, obviously things get slowed down a bit more. But yeah, other than that, I did quite enjoy it. I think story-driven games, by their very nature of their namesake, they're less about finely tuned mechanics and about good writing and
just
creating
enjoying
an
the
adventure
story
for
that
you.
comes.
Yeah, and this seems to have it, if I'm perfectly honest with you. Next game I wanted to talk about was a game called Deep Blue.
Deep
Blue, which I think you would very much enjoy. It's got a few elements of Quacks of Quedlinburg to it.
I like that game.
In that you have a bag, and you are pulling stuff out the bag, and you're pushing your luck with it. The great thing about this game, though, is you may not be in charge of that bag and pulling the stuff out of it. So the way the game works is you have a number of dive sites on this board, because it's a game about diving for treasure. You want to try and set up your dive. So in other words, you're wanting to do things like make sure you've got enough oxygen and things that can deal with hazards and things like that. However, someone may decide, actually, I'm just going to initiate a dive there. And when they initiate a dive, it counts for everyone that's currently on that space.
Oh, right,
that person is in control of what they're drawing out the bag. So they can intentionally sabotage other people in it, which we played this with a friend of ours called Sean, who I think we've mentioned on a few podcasts before. And I think he only realised after we played that there is huge potential there for just annoying everyone in this game.
He didn't realise during the play?
No, he didn't really. It was weird. In this game, we only had 1 or 2 occasions where we had several people set up on one space to do a dive. and I think there were only there were maybe 2 or 3. So in other words, when you're doing these dives, and when you pull out the bag a blue gem or a black gem, they represent blue is you're running low on oxygen, you have to find a way of dealing with that, and the black ones is a hazard, so you're being attacked by something, basically. So you want to build up your hand of cards to have defences against these things, and the person who is currently in charge of the dive doesn't know what you've got in your hand. So in other words, they may want to pull out some oxygen because they want you to fail. Even if they've already failed on the dive, they may just want everyone else to fail as well. So it's a game where you really have to balance up between preparation and pushing forward the dive before anyone else can get prepared for the dive. It's really, really fun. Honestly, I had a really good time with it. It's as good as Quacks of Quedlinburg. I think I need time with that.
The fact that you're considering it at all shows how good a game it is.
I feel like it's different enough from Quacks of Quedlinburg to justify it being bought by people who already own the game. Like I said, this whole idea of in Quacks of Quedlinburg, everything still feels like you're in control of what you're doing in Quacks of Quedlinburg.
If you mess up in Quacks, it's because you've pushed your luck. Whereas not Daryl forcing me to push my luck or something like that.
Whereas this is very different. You could do everything you can in order to try and make sure that your dives are successful, but someone else can just jump in and deliberately sabotage you. Which I think it happened on one dive in the game where we went in, or I think I did a dive where I intentionally didn't go very far into it because I figured out the longer that the dive went on, one of the other people that were playing were only going to benefit more and more from it. So I cut the dive short and said, "No, we're stopping the dive there." So I did do that once, and I think Sean might have done it once where he tried to kind of push someone out of the dive, basically. I think it's really interesting. Really, really enjoyed it.
You showed me the box for that one the other week, and I did look at it and think, I do want to have a go at this.
We'll definitely get that to the table again sometime soon, because, again, I think that one can play up to 5 people, I think, and it would be interesting to see just how it plays with 5.
Is it over there?
It's currently over there somewhere, I think, or is it?
We can read it off the box if we can see it.
It's up there, above the camera line.
I can't see it.
It's on the very top above Star Wars Outer Rim.
I can't see it from here.
Yeah. Okay, really, like I said, I haven't really had too much chance to play very much.
Crocodile with 2 teams.
And yeah, this was the last thing that we've really played in the last few weeks. We've played some Crocodile. It was interesting to play it with teams. We kept mixing up the teams so that everyone got a chance to play with one another. But but yeah, it added an interesting new dynamic, because certainly the way I was playing, I felt like sometimes I wouldn't make the obvious shot because I figured it gave the person that I'm sitting opposite more options on the table. So that was an interesting way of playing it. So sometimes it would feel like I almost wasted a shot because I went for something harder because I knew it made things easier for my partner in the game. That was really interesting, and it is the fact that you're sitting opposite one another. I've noticed one thing you can kind of do in a game of Crocodile is if the situation is just right, you can kind of flick your discs in such a way that you can start driving the other person back further and further and further before making a simple shot where you can get one kind of in the centre. You can't do that in this game simply because
someone's on your other side.
Yeah, the person on the opposite side to you is on your team, so that tactic will never work anymore. And again, there's just so much more thought to it. It does slow the game down, but I kind of enjoyed that. I enjoyed the slower pace of it. I enjoyed trying to do things to help someone else.
Like doubles tennis.
Yeah,
It's the same rules, different game.
Yes. I mean, one of the things we've been saying about Crocodile is how fast it plays, and we've just had a hell of a lot of fun with it. Every single time people come round and start playing with it, they just don't want to stop playing. Usually it just goes on and on and on until the night eventually ends, usually. But yeah, it was good to have a little mini tournament. We did something ridiculous where we said, right, we're going to play first to 455, I think it was.
Why?
You take a guess who suggested that.
Sean.
There you go. But yeah, that game was interesting because it did end with one team going way ahead of the other, because it kind of takes one bad game and then someone's like 100 points behind all of a sudden, and there's just not that much coming back from that.
Daryl the one that was 100 points behind?
No, Daryl was paired with Sean. They were way ahead of me and my other friend Sean. Not the one we usually talk about on the podcast. We collect
Sean's.
Yeah, we do collect Sean's.
I have a friend called Sean as well.
Yes,
I know quite a few Sean's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know another Sean. There's Isle of Wight Sean, and then there's annoying Sean with the big nose.
I've met him. Yeah, I've met him. I think I only know 3 Seans, and it's those 3.
I know Big Nose Sean, Isle of Wight Sean, Work Sean, Board Game Sean.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm missing a Sean. They're clearly not important enough for me to remember, so...
Shall we move on from Sean's to news?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, I think the only way to start off the news is by talking about mince pies.
Mince pies. I ate a mince pie.
we had mince pies beforehand. Yes. I quite enjoyed my mince pie.
So what were
But
they?
I'm not a critic. I'm
co-op.
It was co-op last time we did a podcast.
Co-op,
I think.
irresistible selection, all butter pastry. Now I'm going to give them benefit of the doubt because you said the box been open how long?
I'm not sure how long it's been open, but they were brought round about a week ago, so they're certainly not fresh.
That made me shiver. The concept of unfresh mince pies. I was like,
this critic demands freshness.
Yes. I mean, they were okay. The pastry was too soft.
Okay.
A bit. Didn't really have any sort of. No, I'm not happy with the pastry. The texture's wrong.
That was interesting about the pastry though, because you'd imagine it would go stale, so it would go a bit. If it's been left around for a little while.
If it were like, is it all butter pastry? So maybe it's short crust.
Okay.
And it would be solid to start with. It'd be like biscuits. Biscuits go soft and they go off, don't they?
They do, yes.
The mincemeat was good though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the mincemeat. No meat included in mincemeat for people that don't know how mincemeat works. But no, they were quite nice. I still prefer the Aldi ones we had the other day.
Yeah, I mean,
I had some free from mince pies this morning.
Free from?
Yes, they had no milk or gluten or egg or whatever.
Okay.
They were okay. They were certainly edible, and were I in a position where I was crippled in the stomach in such a way that I couldn't eat any kind of food, they would stop me from being utterly depressed.
Okay.
But they're alright. They're just a bit weird.
Okay, that's fine.
No, they're passed as mince pies. If someone had made those mince pies and gave them to me, I'd be like, nice mince pies, man. Good job. I'm massively fond of the... So they sprinkled the top with sugar.
Right.
And caramelised it, so it was like crunchy sugar on top.
So almost like a creme caramel or whatever. No, creme brulee, isn't it?
Well, no, I think it's more just the sugary bit. But yeah. But no, that was good. That was the highlight of the mince pie, though. Okay. So the mince pie itself wasn't... Yeah. Okay. No, but I don't know if I should give them out of 10 ratings. I don't think it's fair to judge the co-op one because they've been opened.
I can't remember what your score was for the previous co-op one.
Solid 7 for the Aldi one. I think it was a 6.
The co-op was low, if I remember right, because it was the disappointment, wasn't it, more than anything?
Yeah, I think it was 6. But bear in mind it was last year's winner, which was quite high.
Right, okay. I remember Daryl being quite shocked over your scoring of it.
I had a Greg's Mince Pie since last podcast as well. That was quite nice. Short crust, pastry again, still warm.
Pushed the Audi one.
It pushed the Audi one. The problem is it had too much dribble. So it spilt around the edges, which sort of, it's home sort of baked mince pie. You sort of go, well, it's going to happen. But I got mince pie juice all over my hands, and that annoyed me a little, so it brought the score down. It tasted all right. Not amazing. I've not had a mince pie yet this year that has made me go, well, hot damn, that's a good mince pie. But we hope it could happen soon.
Should we move on to some actual board gaming news?
Are we going to address at all the fact that I dressed as a cowboy? Are we just leaving it?
I mean, shall we?
It's Halloween today.
It is.
Spooky.
I'm not dressed as anything in particular, but...
No, I went to work and I dressed as a cowboy because it's fun to get paid to dress as a cowboy and greet people like an angry cowboy. Stand at the front of a toy shop and go, "Morning." That's why I'm dressed as a cowboy.
Okay.
No other reason.
No.
I just haven't taken it off yet.
No, you've come straight from work as well.
Straight from work.
The dedication.
Yeah.
Which I very much appreciate.
That's alright.
Cool. Let's talk about some news.
People were switching off now. Now they figured out, oh, that's why he's dressed as a cowboy.
That's it, mystery solved.
You can all switch off.
Done. Please stay. Okay, first of all, we have... This is from journalism.co.uk, and the story is A Game of Society, why a group of Italian journalists turned Instagram into a board game. So...
Do you think there's a porn.co.uk?
Probably, and I'm certainly not going to look right now.
No, it's just journalism.co.uk feels quite on the nose. News.co.uk.
You're lying in a news grave, Peter. What does it say?
News.
Okay, so yeah, this is a really interesting story. Basically, what this group of Italian journalists have done is, I think it's to kind of like help tourism in Italy and things like that. Is what happens is you go to an original page and you've got three choices. You've got Rome, Napoli, and Milan. You click on it, and then it starts guiding you through this map, which is set out like a board game, pretty much. And you click on it, it's all in Italian, so I can't... I've had a look on it, I've given it a try, but I can't get too far into it. It's basically everything uses tags. So you have to start clicking on the images, you find things on it, you click on it, it takes you to a new page. So in other words, it's made over several different Instagram accounts. It's really, really neat, actually. Although this isn't the most gamiest of games, it certainly shows that there's something there.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. It looks interesting. I can't quite fathom how one would go about it.
Okay, so the idea is you've got your main page. Let's say I pick Napoli.
Yeah.
And it opens a photo like you would normally have in Instagram. As soon as you click on it, you get your tags come up.
Okay, yeah.
And when you click on it, it takes you to a whole new page.
Right.
At which point you have a map.
Oh, cool.
And then you can start clicking on those, and every click kind of takes you to a new video. I won't click on one just for the sake of it's going to be noisy and it's going to be picked up by the camera. But there's various things going on, and obviously there's different links
George
you can
Lucas.
click. Really? Just without the beard? Oh no, he has a beard.
It's kind of like George Lucas and Sean Connery's love child.
We'll go with that.
I think that's spot on.
Yeah,
George Lucas and Sean Connery, yeah.
I can see that. Definitely. Cool. But yeah, I really like the idea of this.
Yeah. It's an interesting concept, isn't it?
Like I said,
different.
If anything, it's providing a platform. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear that, but my dog is going a bit nuts at the moment.
I don't think you can hear it.
I don't know.
Trixie is just going mental.
You could. The last video we recorded was the Dead Man's Cabal review, and you can just very slightly pick it up at the end of that video. So, maybe.
Any podcast that includes walking is much improved.
Yeah. I mean, it's just as intelligible as anything I have to say. So.
Yeah, if anything, it's pretty standard replacement for Daryl. Just to have a dog go, "Oh, oh, oh, oh," is equivalent to having Daryl sat here making the same noise.
But yeah, I think if anything, I think this opens the door for other projects and things of the sort. Like, I think you could possibly see more gamey games
I'm not
being made
particularly
off of it.
interested in Italy.
No.
However, the concept, where it applied to something that I'm interested in, would probably be something I would look into.
Okay.
Seems very tourist-driven.
It does.
So I wonder whether there'll be something that's more game-driven.
Yeah, this is kind of what I mean. This is kind of like laid out the foundation for other things. I could see things like there being, say, like a murder mystery or something like that put online. I can see this as a platform for something like that, and you have to click around. Basically like a choose-your-own-adventure. Almost. You could play a choose-your-own-adventure over Instagram by the looks of this.
That'd be really cool.
Which I think seems like that's probably not too far off. It might be out there already.
A choose-your-own-adventure.
Sorry?
Now you said that, I really want to play a choose-your-own-adventure.
What would you base it on?
No, I want to just play one.
Oh, you want to play one?
Yeah,
Did you know
like a book one?
There is actually a couple of board games out there that are based on the old choose-your-own-adventure books.
And there's a couple of apps
Yeah.
that are really good.
They're making a comeback. Like,
they're really
recently.
fun. I can't remember what one I had. It was like, I'm trying to think what the name of the place is called, but it's like, sounds like something rude.
Have you ever seen any of the video ones that they did, like on DVDs back in the day?
I remember them, but they're
so bad. Like,
garbage. They're
like,
utter garbage.
I love watching the videos where someone makes a perfectly rational choice
and
then they get absolutely slaughtered by something. Like it would be something like, you're a policeman, a terrorist has just pulled a gun on you. What do? Try to shoot the gun out of his hand or something like that, and then you miss and then just get absolutely gunned down by them or something like that, and you think...
To be fair, I'm going to back it in a realistic scenario. If someone's got a gun on you, the answer is not try to shoot the gun out of his hand.
No,
like,
but...
it's not a rational response.
No, perhaps not. That probably wasn't a good example.
I know what you mean, though. It's stuff like you're investigating a known criminal. You're investigating a crime scene, and you see footprints outside a window with fingerprints on the window. You look through your diary, and the boots are the size of this person, the fingerprints match that person as well. And then when you confront them about it, it's like, you don't have the required evidence to do this, you fail! And you're like, oh... Yeah, I know what you mean. I've definitely played one before that's just...
I seem to remember there was one I always remember where you were hunting vampires or something,
right, okay.
And that was just awful, really terrible. Like you had agents or something like that you were working with, and it was kind of like you controlled two of them, and your role was kind of like you were an intelligence agent, kind of like guiding them, and stuff, and you were just getting them killed all the time and losing, because if one dies... I think actually, no, one could die and you could still carry on with the other agent, which was kind of cool.
That seems fair.
Yeah, but I seem to remember one of them was brought back from the dead then as a vampire or something. It gets kind of crazy. It's kind of appropriate to be talking about this on Halloween, but, you know... yeah, I remember them being quite bad, though.
Yeah, they were trash.
Like, as cool as this sounds, it wasn't really.
At the time, they were cool, and then you played them when you realised that they were just garbage.
Yeah.
But it's one of those where we look back on them fondly in the knowledge that they're shit.
Yeah. Cool. Shall we move on to something else?
Yes.
We have the creators of Cards Against Humanity opening a board game cafe in Chicago. This story I'm reading in particular is from Thrillist.com, and I believe what's happening is they've got the kind of standard fare of there are thousands of board games available to be able to play. There's a cafe, but the pictures of the food they were serving looked like... So, I've been to board game cafes, and it's usually like club sandwiches, maybe a muffin or something like that. This looks like a proper meal prepared by a professional chef. I mean, it looks ridiculous. There are also 2 escape rooms on site as well.
What?
Apparently, so they're kind of bringing several concepts all together.
Sounds crazy.
It does sound crazy, and I would be nervous going to it, knowing that the Cards Against Humanity
they
people,
have
there's
a
always
reputation.
something behind it.
They
There's,
have a reputation for being kind of trolls.
yeah, and
Didn't they do like a charity drive for their own bonus?
they did something like that. I also remember they said, we will send you manure through the mail, and it was just, we are sending you manure through the mail or something like that. They did a Black Friday sale, I think.
Someone complained that there wasn't enough like glitter or something in one of their packages, so they sent them some glitter. And then that person complained, saying, "Is that the best you can do?" And they sent them just a massive box full of glitter, which went all over their front room. Yeah, they've got a good sense of humour. I know one of them bought like a gold encrusted dildo or something.
Really?
Like they did like a GoFundMe or something like that, where it was just they made it clear what they wanted, and it was, we're going to use these things to buy stuff we've always wanted. And they got paid a certain amount of money, and one of the people in their office bought like this ridiculous dildo.
So here's actually what this article on Thrillist actually says regarding the food there. The impressive menu includes shared plates curated by executive chef Aaron McKay and chef de cuisine Evan Bamer, with tastes of Vietnam, Spain and Mexico. They'll range in price from $14 to $60. And while we don't have the full food rundown, we have heard whisperings of pork and queso topped huaraches, bun gar nyong, kebab halabi, and nam tok noya.
$60 though, that's, just over £60 in post-Brexit money.
Yeah, but the bi-weekly Brexit joke. Oh, it's still going. Don't worry, it's the 31st of October today, when it was all supposed to end. No.
It's still a sham.
It is still all over the place. Sorry. Yeah, sorry, just the way they talk about the food in this, I think there's
half those
got
things
to...
are.
No, I have no idea. I don't know how to pronounce them.
Do you know what huaraches is?
No, I have
Do you
no
know
idea.
what a bun gar nyong is?
No.
Kebab halabi, I assume.
I imagine it's a kebab of some sort.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen that written somewhere before. Nam tok nea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nea.
Yeah.
Nea.
No,
I don't know what those are.
No.
I'm interested.
But this is what makes me think there's something behind it.
Yeah.
Because this isn't...
It feels like a troll.
This
And
isn't...
knowing who it's coming from, it could almost certainly be a troll.
But would it be the ultimate troll to have us all thinking board gamers would... Why would board gamers need this stuff? Why would they be demanding this stuff and then just serving it to them anyway? I mean...
I don't know.
Those guys. God. Hurts my head.
They're trolls.
They are.
And I'm going to assume it's a troll until I see otherwise.
Yes, yeah. Right, this next one is probably my favourite thing from the week, and this is a board game called Hey Robot, and it basically is a game where you have to ask your Alexa or Siri or whatever you have to ask it questions and have it say a word that you've drawn the card of.
Oh, that's quite cool.
So, without saying certain words as well. So, the example that's given in this article written by Kotaku is you would say, if they wanted you wanted Alexa to say turkey, you would ask, "Hey Alexa, what meat would you have in a roast dinner?" And of course, the problem there is it could say chicken, it could say beef.
Is it bad that my mind went, who is currently attacking the Kurds? Who attempted Armenian genocide?
But here's the problem: is if they said the Turks, for example, or something like that, it wouldn't count because it hasn't said Turkey. So you have to start playing the Alexa system and trying to figure out how you can ask something specific enough without saying certain words in order to get it to say the word back to you in some form. And it seems like a really fun concept to me. I imagine it's one that could get old after a little while. It's one of those things you pull out every so often. And
where is half the German national squad from?
Okay. Yeah.
It's not untrue.
No, it's not. Well, they got a few Polish people there, haven't they?
Polish players. They've got some Turkish. There's more Turkish players than you'd expect.
Yeah.
So I feel like Mesut Ozil has Turkish.
He does.
Heritage. Sami Khedira
Yeah.
Turkish. I remember looking at it the other day. I looked at the German squad and I thought, to be fair, I say the other day, it was a couple of years ago. I looked and I just thought, none of them are German.
Yeah, and
Don't worry.
I bet Daryl is so glad he's not on this podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, the 9-0 reference.
I'm glad Daryl's not on this podcast.
Yeah, why not?
God, he's annoying.
Screw Daryl. Right, yeah, but I like the sound of this game.
Yeah,
I think
you've got one, haven't you? Because she's interrupted the podcast before.
Yeah, she has interrupted the podcast before, so
we'll have to play this.
I imagine you can also play it on your phone. I imagine it works with all those other things as well, like on an Android phone. I know if you say "Hey Google," it will start looking things up for you. So I imagine it will just work the same with any of them. I imagine it's whatever robot-voiced assistant you have on whatever device you have. But yeah, sounds good. I'm kind of looking forward to that as much of a gimmick as it might be.
I mean, I would like to give it a go.
Yes, definitely. Okay, our final news story that we have this week is board game has gone to Kickstarter about Labour Revolts, and the reason why this is quite funny is because there's currently strikes at Kickstarter over the fact that they're trying to de-unionise the various people working at Kickstarter. Right. So I'll read quite a bit of this article, which is from Vice.com. Let's see. A national labour organisation and publisher of activist board games have launched a campaign on Kickstarter to fund a new game about organising labour movements to rebel against corporate consolidation. In the game Strike, the game of worker rebellion, players will grow their ranks, mobilise workers and organise strikes around their city. And what I love is the fact that on this board you've kind of got various locations with paths written, like, drawn across it. Then in the middle of the board it just says strike, with obviously a couple of kind of charts down at the bottom that kind of measure just how unsettled people are getting and how close they are to an actual strike. It sounds interesting. It kind of caught my attention a bit. The article goes on to say that it's unabashedly a pro-labour rights game, which I don't think is a bad thing at all. But a bit more about why this is quite ironic is, I'll read the article from here. Within 2 weeks in September, 2 of Kickstarter's union lead organisers were fired and a third phased out. Now the company, which has situated itself as a progressive outlier from Silicon Valley tech companies, faces a federal complaint for allegedly retaliating against union organisers and has declined the union's request for voluntary recognition. Kickstarter's newly appointed CEO, Aziz Hassan, has denied that the firings were related to union organising, but said that a union framework is inherently adversarial.
Wow.
Which, honestly, that
is...
you are playing with fire to say something like that.
Dickhead language for...
Dickheads?
Yeah. Like, that is what a dickhead would say when asked about a union, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, people are taking advantage of workers in all kinds of professions these days, and unions are very important. I mean, I'd say I'm speaking from a place where I work in a place that has no union, and quite often it does feel that people are taken advantage of.
Yeah, I think the nature of the business...
You know what you're getting into.
Yeah,
that's
I
the
think
thing.
There's always going to be someone that's willing to do that extra. So if you don't do it, the company probably wouldn't keep you, is how I would describe it. But
it's a problem that runs across the entire sector as a whole. It's not just one company. I mean, everyone knows about the problems at Amazon, for example. They have no union there, and the people that work for Amazon are just routinely trodden on.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the worst case scenarios of that kind of thing, I think.
Yeah, I would say so. It's one of the most documented, at least. Yeah,
and having those unions just help protect people, and it's not a case of unions are there to criticise every single time someone is downtrodden at work or something like that. Unions are about creating a fair compromise.
Yes.
that's what unions are about, and that's why they're so important, because when you have no compromise anywhere, one side just takes advantage and just rolls over the other, and you never want to see that ever in life. You never want to see people taking advantage of other people. And this just sounds awful, if I'm perfectly honest with you. Not the game. The game sounds fine.
Yeah.
Like, I'd give it a go. This Kickstarter stuff I wasn't aware of until this game basically was announced as going to Kickstarter.
I didn't know Kickstarter were undergoing this at all.
No, and if anything, already it's just drawn some eyes to it a bit. Certainly casts Kickstarter in less of a favourable light. Like they said, Kickstarter like to see themselves as a progressive company. And
I like to see myself as a ripped hunk who's really good at football and can pull off an awesome cowboy hat.
You're getting there, if I do say so.
Yeah. I mean, you can't have it all, can you? But,
No.
Yeah, you can't say we're this progressive company and then fire your union leaders.
And then call them adversarial. Like, I don't know. It's one of these things. Like, the thing about unions is they aren't there to tell companies how they should be running. They are just there as
to protect workers from anything within that company that is a threat to them.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I don't know how much further we can really go into that subject.
I'm not qualified to talk about this, I'm sure.
No, I mean, neither am I really, but
Yeah.
it's important to see when... Well, everyone knows the importance of them if they don't know the technical ins and outs of it all. And to have a progressive company say the things they've said...
Progressive company.
Yeah, is...
Yeesh.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's a yikes from me.
It is also a yikes from me. Right.
I thought you had another bit of news then, but I just realised it was you Googling Bernard Cribbins.
Yes. Because we weren't 100% sure. I wasn't 100% sure who he was. You knew.
Yeah, I knew.
But, yeah. I kind of had an inkling he was something to do with the Wombles.
Why am I saying... He's in Doctor Who as well.
He is also in Doctor Who.
He was in Doctor Who.
Okay. Shall we look at our newest section of the podcast, which is, shall we make a game?
Let's make a game.
Let's make a game. Okay, and today's suggestion actually comes from one of our patrons, Elliot, who writes to us and says, "Ahoy hoy, I love playing the board games based on video games like Fallout and Four Souls." I don't know whether that's meant to be Dark Souls or whether that's the Binding of Isaac
I
Four
think it's
Souls.
Binding of Isaac.
Yeah. So why not try to make your favourite video games into board games? Let's give it a try.
My favourite video game is Europa Universalis 4.
That's very board gamey anyway, isn't it?
Already a board game. I've not played the board game because I don't have a million hours spare.
Is that...
We did look at it at UK Games Expo.
It's not out yet, is it? I don't think.
Oh, is it not? No, you're probably right. I don't think it is.
I think they were demoing it.
There's a Crusader Kings 2 board game, which I saw in Entoyment, our local game shop, the other day, and I looked at it and I thought, you can't play Scandinavian nations. Boring.
That'll be for future expansions, I'm sure.
You'd hope so, because it's like a Viking era. I mean, Pokemon is a favourite board.
There have been board games, but they've been very childish.
I remember the Pokemon board game, which is possibly the hardest board game I've ever played.
So
I might actually get a copy of the Pokemon board game and we can play it.
Someone said they
awful.
I think Sean might have said he got a copy of it, I think. Yeah. Someone told me they've got a copy of the board game and they were going to bring it round one day.
Oh, I'd love to play it again. It's impossible.
Yeah, but...
It's actually impossible.
I think the problem is like... I was trying to think about a common ground that me and you have with video gaming, and I think the only game we've played together is Destiny 2. And of course, things like we've played things like Jackbox, Sea of Thieves. Ooh, Sea of Thieves is a board game. I'm always like craving like a pirate.
Yeah.
Like I've got Libertalia, which is a great game, a great board game, but I want one when it feels like you're going on an adventure, like a pirating adventure, which is very much what Sea of Thieves is. I could see that quite easily being made into a board game.
Yeah, I'd play Sea of Thieves as a board game.
I mean, it's a cooperative thing where you're just kind of seeing... Or maybe it could be played in 2 teams or something, because it's very much cooperative-driven video game. But let's say you played it with... You could either play it as a solo game, or you could play it in, say, 2 teams of 2 or 2 teams of 3 would probably be your limits to it. There would probably be mechanics for... I imagine it's going to be very much a miniatures game on a board.
I can't imagine it any other way. And like you move your ship around.
But I feel like there should be mechanics to moving your ship around, as in you all have to do things in order to move your ship. Like you can get dragged in the wrong direction and stuff like
Black
that.
Seas, where the wind would change constantly and things like that.
Yeah.
I'd like to play a Black Seas expansion which has like the Kraken and stuff.
Yeah, and islands you can actually go to and shore up on. So in other words, it would kind of be like Black Seas but an adventure mode.
Yeah.
Almost, which would...
A co-op adventure mode for Black Seas.
That would be kind of neat.
Who makes Black Seas?
Warlord Games.
Get on it. Get on it.
We want this.
I want that.
I suppose all you've got to do is kind of like maybe mix in an RPG book or something like that with it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Something that will help drive the narrative.
Well, one of the D&D games I played for some time was a pirate-based D&D game. That was fun.
Yeah. You see, one thing I will go back to real quickly where we're talking about turning our favourite video games into board games, I think a lot of the problem is where you have a board game based on something like Pokemon, or in fact even Destiny 2, which I mentioned a minute ago, is that a lot of those games are on collecting things. Yes. And you're never going to have as many things in a board game as you're going to have in a video game.
I can't think of a way of a Destiny board game working.
No, I can't really either.
No.
It's
a format best made for video games, I think.
Yeah, it's not a narrative-driven thing or anything like that. The only thing I could think of is I think it would be kind of neat to have a board game based on something like Unreal Tournament. Now, I was going to say if you're looking at a first-person shooter game, only because I think that general nature of being combatants in an arena and shooting one another and killing one another constantly, I don't think it makes sense to have customizable characters where you can give them loadouts and things like that. I think it kind of works better with that arcadey style of weapons will just appear on the map at various points,
pick them up,
run to it, collect it, use it, blast the hell out of people, and it would just be a point scoring system. I think there's a game called Adrenaline, which I think runs on it's kind of like Unreal Tournament, but in a board game. And I imagine that would be the kind of thing that I would think of for something like that. But
I think my other favourite video games is stuff like Monkey Island. I really enjoyed.
Yeah, and you can't really develop that into a board game well.
What's the one with Manny and I forget what it's called now.
Oh, Grim Fandango.
Grim Fandango. That's very high on my list. Yeah. Again, you wouldn't be able to change that into a board game easily at all.
Point and click games, I think, in general, would be very difficult to adapt. But I mean,
Football Manager.
Oh,
I think that's doable. You know,
that could. We were talking about a story on the podcast ages ago now, weren't we? Where someone in Scotland was developing it in a flat. Yeah, I mean, that would be interesting to look at and find out how that project's going. Yeah.
Knock another 9 goals past Southampton.
Yes.
Neither of us are Leicester fans. We just don't like Southampton.
No,
I'm not even going to apologise for it. You're the worst.
It's funny because I'm kind of loosely an AFC Bournemouth fan and you're a Portsmouth fan. There's no dislike between those two at all, but the hatred towards Southampton is just very real for every team in the south, I think.
I just think they're awful. People, all of them. And anyone who is near Southampton is bad. And they should feel bad. That includes my wife. About maybe 6 or 7 of my friends.
Yeah. Awful people.
Ah, sickening.
Scum of the earth.
I don't know how they get up in the morning. I don't know if I could do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Fortunately, we're not them.
Yeah.
So yeah. I kind of feel like I feel like Sea of Thieves was our best idea there.
Sea of Thieves.
So the thing is like I haven't been back to Sea of Thieves since they did like the big monster updates and stuff like that.
I would like to play it again, but I'm an adult with no time.
Yeah. I think I'm much the same. I think if you read our newsletter, but by the way, you can read that if you become a Patreon for as little as $1 every month by going to patreon.com/everybodydice.
You can see Daryl's naughty secret pictures of dogs that he sees.
None this month, though.
There are no dogs this month.
There's not dogs this month, unfortunately. There is, however, a picture of my doggo. So it's not a complete letdown. But we kind of try and talk about video games a bit in our newsletter.
Yes.
And I went through a patch where I was playing video games, and I'm kind of back to rarely playing them again now.
I haven't. I'm trying to think of the last video game I actually played, and I genuinely can't think of one.
Yeah.
Didn't
It probably was like a Football Manager, wasn't it? Or
almost certainly. I've got a Football Manager game going with a friend where I'm playing as Arsenal and he's playing as Tottenham. And we're like a season and a half in, and I won literally everything last season. But obviously Arsenal are in the Europa League, so I'm going into the Champions League, and now things are harder.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't. Oh, I bought the new Ghost Recon game. This is the wrong place to talk about this, isn't it?
yeah, we'll save it for the patrons.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sea of Thieves. How would we? What is it? You have kind of.
I like the idea of a big circular map
Mm.
with islands around the edge, and then a big skull island in the middle, and a kraken that moves around the board, and a giant shark that moves around the board, and you each get cards with objectives on, and you can't see your opponent's objective, and it might be the same one.
Yeah.
And like you have to go around and use the wind. You can't just go wherever you like. You've got to go the direction of the wind, but like steer yourself in like a direction using that. Like, so you're weaving around all the islands to get to the place you need to go.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. You definitely need to have sailing mechanics in there.
Yeah,
Where
I like the idea of the sailing mechanics. If a wind's blowing in a direction, you can't go in the 180 degrees
yeah,
that wind is blowing from. I don't know how sailing works.
yeah, but I also feel like, to be honest, the best. I think the best person positioned to talk about sailing is Daryl, and he's not here. But I kind of feel like there should be an element of cooperation there. You could almost play like a Mind style mini game
I like the
to
idea.
try and
So
get
there's
the
like-
cooperation. Like,
There's a number of players, and they can form crews freely,
yeah,
but can also go solo if they want to.
yeah,
And if they form crews, they can pick up a crew quest,
yeah,
and they can have solo quests as well.
yeah. I like the idea of that. It's giving you the freedom of choice of, do I play this as a solo game or do I start teaming
Like,
up? It's
you-
not
you
something
wanna
I think
team
you've really
up.
seen.
But at the end of the day, you're not going to win if you team up. So you want to team up a little bit, but not too much. Maybe you find out there's someone with a different quest to you, so you're not going to be at odds, but you're going to the same location. You might as well team up.
I think there definitely should be something to balance that out, because I would see one of the problems with that being no one would ever want to team up with the person who looks like they're currently winning.
But that's how it evens out, I guess.
I suppose it does, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And like, there's no mechanics to actively hunt the people who are winning,
yeah,
but there's nothing to say when you find that, because like that, other than being like actively hunting the person who's winning, there's no reason you would fight each other unless you're going after the same objective.
Do you know something? I'm trying to remember what the third type of mission there was at the beginning of the Sea of Thieves.
treasure
we were
hunting
playing. There was the
one.
treasure hunt and there was the bounties.
Yeah.
What was the third one?
It's
that you could do?
exploration.
Treasure hunting, bounties. Was it exploration?
I feel like it was.
Maybe it was. Yeah, yeah, it could well be. My mind's gone completely blank on it.
Yeah, same.
But I kind of feel like there could be conditional bounties in the game for the bounty side of things. So in other words,
It
at
wasn't
some
trading,
point,
was it?
it was trading. Yes, you're right. It was trading. So yeah, it would work out that you could quite easily.
Actually, end up a little bit like Zaya.
It could a bit, except for, like you said, it's got the addition of you're actually building crews to move around the board and fight things with. But yeah, I kind of like the idea that you have bounties where you could be monster hunting, and it does the whole thing of it gives you clues as to what island it could be on. You'd have to have a way of determining which island it is and whether you've gone to the right island.
I like the idea that it's puzzles.
Yeah.
So,
but I think
just like the game where it doesn't actually just say, it gives you a picture or something and say it's there. And you have to figure out what island that is and what angle you have to come from.
Perhaps you could have like a little code on the back of the card or something telling you to look up something
Maybe
to see whether it's right or wrong.
Game for like Chronicles and Crime, where it has like an app where you scan it.
Yeah, it could well be. Except it's obviously got a lot more components to it, and is kind of like a board game with the app as a side thing.
Obviously, all the cards could have like QR codes on and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's probably about as far as we can go with designing this for today. Do you reckon?
Yeah.
Cool.
I want to play it, so let me know when you...
When we make it, we put it into production. Okay, now let's take an audience question. And this actually comes from the exact same person. So actually, they sent us one email with which kind of went from one into the other. And the second part of the question was, what about designing a video game based on the first board game I ever played with you guys? Bang! Cheers, boys. Love the podcast. Elliot.
Bang!
Bang as a video game. Okay.
Oh, I think that was the most cripplingly embarrassing moment of my life. I've been doing that all day successfully to customers.
As an acting security guard.
They didn't want me to.
No.
Just enjoying myself. Bang as a video game.
I reckon that would be relatively simple to
I
adapt.
think that'd be great as a VR game.
As a VR game? Okay.
Because you'd have a group of people around you and you'd go like that.
I suppose that's the thing. The real thing that becomes hard
is that
mechanic of... Well, it would. I would say it would be the mechanic of the distance that people are away from you is determined by how far away you're sat to them.
Yeah.
That's going to be quite hard to replicate in a game like that.
It'd just be like when you play Uno online. It would replicate as people are
sat around the table, basically. Yeah. But I wouldn't want it to be a game where it's people playing the board game. It would be more like your characters there actually doing it. And I suppose the way you could do it is it could just mock up a picture of a saloon or something like that, and you're just all stood in a circle.
How would you... one of you's on a horse and the other's in a barrel.
A barrel just mystically appears in there. Someone throws dynamite into this saloon. Everyone's going to die, but only one person actually does. Oh man, that's tough. That's tough how you...
I still feel like in VR it'd be best.
So you'd still... Everyone would have to have a VR... I suppose you can see where you're standing, can't you?
You wouldn't necessarily play it with people in the same room.
No.
You'd play it with randomers.
You would play it with randomers, wouldn't you? Would you be able to put, like, say, a hot seat mode into it or something like that?
I guess so.
In which case you'd have to have some visual representation as to where everyone is in order to determine like the distances and stuff like that. I don't know. It's kind of like how would items get distributed from the deck? Because the thing is I think what he's looking for here isn't just
like Uno, and
that's not what we really want here. What we want is actually a video game representation of Bang, which is harder. That's a lot harder. You have to have some reason for people getting these things all the time.
I'm not sure it's a format that works without a lot of changing.
Yeah, so like you said, almost the best approach to it would be like an Uno style setup to it. But that, I feel like that's a cop-out.
It is a massive cop-out, which is why I don't like it as an idea.
I don't like it. I'll have to go along with it.
Yeah. Nickton.
Oh man, I feel like I want to try harder with this though.
Don't work hard, work smart.
The smart thing is just to put the game online in its current format, and just have average Joes just sat around the table just playing Bang. Sorry, Elliot.
It's a cop-out, but it's nothing less than you would expect from us.
Yeah. Let's move on to the big topic. Okay, and our big topic this week is what makes for a good emotionally driven game. Okay, so this is kind of like the way I was thinking with this is a game where you're not just robotically playing a game, carrying out the basic meta in the game. It's one where you get emotionally invested in the game.
Lying. Games where people lie to each other,
Yes.
I find, bring out rage. Not particularly rage, but like emotion. So let's say something like
Bang.
One Night Werewolf or Bang, where you've got like a role that you're trying to convince some people you are or are not.
Yeah.
And then when Sean shoots you anyway, even though he knows you're his sheriff or his deputy, that's what makes me/you cross.
Yeah.
Because you're like, no, I'm this. And they're like, oh, I don't believe you. Then that sort of creates tension.
It does.
I don't know if this goes back to one of our previous questions where it's more salty.
Yeah.
I wouldn't describe... Because is it salt or is it emotion? Is it the same thing?
Well,
They fall into one.
yeah, I think that very much is kind of like the salty kind of side of things. I don't know whether you'd necessarily say that is you getting emotional. However, I think one game that is similar and along those kind of lines as well and does involve some degree of lying is Dead of Winter. And the reason why I bring that up is because it's actually a cooperative game and there's only one betrayer in there. Unlike in Bang, where you've got two different teams. In Werewolf, you've got three different teams, sorry. And in Werewolf, you've got two different teams. In this one, essentially there is one team and there is one betrayer. You're very protective of your colony, because in Dead of Winter, you're trying to survive a zombie apocalypse whilst also trying to survive a harsh winter at the same time. Like I said, there isn't necessarily even a betrayer in the game. There just might be a betrayer, because the idea is for every player that you've got on the board, you put in two condition cards, which are going to make you probably going to make you look suspicious, because it could be something like, in order to win the game, the colony has to win the scenario, but you also have to be, say, holding two cards showing fuel. So you could be hoarding fuel for your win condition rather than being a betrayer. So in other words, in a 4-player game, you would have 8 win condition cards put in, but 1 betrayer card put in. So you'd then shuffle that deck, deal 1 to everyone. So actually the chances of there being a betrayer are quite low as such. In fact, it's even less than, it would be 1 in 9 in that scenario. Which across 4 people is still not very likely to happen. So you have less than a 50% chance of each game having a betrayer in, realistically. And you get quite protective of your colony, and it's not just the anger when you feel like someone is potentially a betrayer in the colony. It's stressful as well, because you're wanting to keep this colony alive, because even without a betrayer in there, these scenarios are still hard. They still usually require a lot of resources to get you through it. And when it starts looking like you're getting through it, but you still have that whole thing in the back of your mind that someone could be a betrayer and will pull the trigger at any minute and throw everything to hell, it gets stressful, and you get really emotionally invested in pulling your group through this scenario. It's incredible. I don't think any game has ever quite made me feel that way before. Another game I wanted to bring up, which has no betrayer in at all, which actually I've only ever watched people play, I've never played it myself, is Fog of Love.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Because when me and Daryl played, what was my guy's name? Tyrone
and Jean-Paul,
Yeah.
I think they were.
It was a bit weird because there were definitely elements of me and Daryl's relationship that came out there.
Yeah. But at the same time, did you feel protective of your character whilst you were playing? Like,
Tyrone was a scumbag. I don't think I had much protection. Tyrone, legitimately broke the law.
yeah,
No, I don't know if I cared much about Tyrone. Deserved what he got.
yeah. Whereas Jean-Paul, how would you say Daryl played as him?
It's just Daryl, but French.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen games of it before where people do get quite attached to their characters, and you have the moments of, how the hell could you do that to me, or something like that, when someone decides not to protect their partner when their character's parents start accusing him of
I feel
being the devil.
Actually, when my character did break the law and I needed Daryl to make me an alibi, and he didn't, I think I was like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
This is cooperative.
Yeah. And I mean, that's what I'm talking about, is there is kind of I think as something that's completely different from all these Betrayer games and stuff like that, I do feel as if Fog of Love does provide that.
Yeah. I don't know, it is weird, just because as lovers, me and Daryl found it very difficult.
You weren't compatible, which
Yeah.
was surprising.
But I'm not a criminal scumbag and he's not French.
That's true. So there's an element of roleplay to
I
it.
feel like Daryl is a bit French. He looks like he could be a bit French.
Okay. I nearly went somewhere then that I probably shouldn't on the podcast, but...
What? But he doesn't know who his dad is? Because he does. He's just not really met him.
Oh, right. Oh, I wasn't referring to that. Really.
So
No,
I took it straight to a dark place.
Yeah, that's considerably darker than what I was
Yeesh.
thinking of. Oh,
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. It's quite easy to get caught up in emotionally driven games like Resistance and things like that, where there's an argument to be made, but it's...
I think we're forgetting RPGs as well. Because I think they're the games where I get most attached to my characters.
They are almost completely driven on emotional decisions and things like that, because you're not playing role-playing games as you. You're playing role-playing games as your character, so you might be doing things with your character that you wouldn't necessarily do, but what you're choosing to do, like it could be breaking the law in some way, because you're a thief in the game, but you wouldn't do it in real life.
Very famously amongst our RPG group, one of my D&D characters shot a little girl in the back with a flintlock pistol. And this is constantly brought up as a reflection of how heartless and unpleasant I am as a person. I would say it's a reflection of my D&D character's morals. He wasn't an evil character. He was chaotic neutral.
I mean, let's as I like to always do, let's bring this to Judge Dredd.
I mean, let's
look at Judge.
Let's also bring into context, right? So this little girl ran past my character and stole something from him, like a little pickpocket. And I think the DM's thought was, Ian's character will follow this person, find a group of small children down on their luck who have returned to thievery and help them. But what my character actually did was do the fancy flick thing with a pistol, which I failed to do, and shoot this girl in the back and reclaim his items off her corpse. And he was just sort of shocked and appalled that I would make that decision. And I sort of thought, well, no, it's not really my decision to make. And my character in that scenario would think, I could chase this person, but they know the city better than me. I'm probably going to lose my stuff if I don't just shoot this person in the back. It's a bit no nonsense. Maybe a bit evil, I would say.
I would say that's evil. That's definitely evil, but...
I don't know, it's chaotic neutral. It's definitely chaotic, but it's revenge.
Yeah, I mean,
If
would you
an
almost
adult-
say that was lawful neutral? Because this is where I was coming to, was Judge Dredd.
Oh, yeah, it's quite
'Cause
awful, isn't it?
Where I was bringing up Judge Dredd, if he was in that situation, a kid had stolen something off of
He would
him
shoot
and
her
then
in the
run,
back.
he would shoot her in the back. I mean, that's...
And he is lawful neutral.
He is, definitely.
What would Judge Dredd do?
Yeah, yeah.
I think that on a daily basis. what would, in this situation, Judge Dredd do?
But, I mean, that's the thing, is, like, when you play a role-playing game, you don't reflect a character's decision on the person that's playing the character.
Yeah, I get a lot of stick for that still.
Yeah.
I'm still described as a closet maniac for shooting this little girl. Daryl thinks I'm a maniac as well. He has referenced it a few times as a reason why I'm unhinged. But
But yeah, I mean, you do things that you would never do in real life because you're playing a character.
No.
And it's quite easy to get emotionally attached to your characters.
I do things I wish I could do, like shoot children and hunt people in a snowstorm.
You know when you said you get annoyed that people refer to you as a maniac, and then you say, "I wish I could do that in real life." That's where your argument kind of falls down a little bit.
I wish I could do it in the context. The fair, lawful context that if someone steals from me, I should be able to shoot them. At work, if someone comes in and steals from me, I should be able to put a bullet in the back of their head. No?
Okay. Shall we close this here?
I thought you'd have my back on that one as well.
I don't know. Right to a fair trial and all that.
Nah. If I've seen them do it and they're completely guilty, it's natural selection at that point. I should be allowed to just cull them.
Okay. Thank you for joining us on today's podcast. If you'd like to find us on social media, you can do at Everybody Dice on Twitter and at Everybody Dice Show on Instagram. If you have a question you would like to send to the podcast, you can send it to mailbag@everybodydice.com. And if you want to become a patron, you can do so for as little as $1 at patreon.com/everybodydice. Lastly, you can find all of our stuff in one place at everybodydice.com. Apart from that, I think thank you for joining us. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
That didn't work.
It's fine. I can edit it. It's fine.